Kia ora. Good evening. Sorry. I'm sitting here in my candlelit room again and it smells amazing, and I'm doing connecting the dots because it's been a while since I've done unsolved mysteries and things that can't be explained and all of that sort of thing. So I was watching a Mr. Ballen episode where he was telling 5 stories in one, and I'm going to make 2 separate videos about 2 subject matters that he talked about. But this first one is going to be talking about the Martin family from Maine. And in 2005, the couple, the husband put his back out, and they had to move back to the wife's hometown of Palmyra in Maine, where she had to go back to work because the husband had become disabled when he put his back out. So they moved into this lovely farmhouse that had a lot of land and forest at the back, and they started reporting seeing strange lights in the forest. And then they were brave enough to go for a walk in the forest one day, and they came across this den where they heard growling and they ran away. And then they started seeing these weird, like, cryptid creatures hanging around the house and basically scaring the crap out of them. But none of them actually sounding like they were more than capable of being able to open doors and enter the house and climb through windows and stuff. But they basically just terrorized this family until the family moved. And then, of course, like, there's never sort of really been reports of anything before or after. So I've done some digging, I've done some looking into it, because I know when I've looked into, like, the Jersey Devil and the Mothman myths, and even like that one in South America with the cop, was it Mexico, that was found curled up in a ball, and even like with the Skinwalker Ranch and all of that, whenever there's anything unexplained going on with, like, strange cryptid creatures or anthropomorphic animals or anything like that, the first thing you need to do is look to see where the nearest military base is. And the nearest one I found, they have the Air Force and Naval base in Maine, but the nearest one to Palmyra is in Bangor, half an hour away, which is the Air Force base, which tells me that den and what they're doing in that forest is all to do with military training. That they've been training people in there and they need to keep everybody away, so they like to put on the act of hybrid cryptoid mythological beings and stuff in order to keep you away from the area. The thing is, I'd listen. You don't want to go messing with that sort of stuff when it comes to the military or the government, because you don't know what they're training for, you don't know what they're doing there, and it's probably best to just mind your own business. Take the warnings as a warning and just mind your own business, unless it's like with the Skinwalker Ranch. They were totally being experimented on, which is the second connecting the dots that I'm going to do, is all to do with that kind of, Skinwalker Ranch experimentation, Ziggy Adamski, PC Godfrey kind of territory. But with this one here, with the Martin family, it says to me that whoever is involved in what's going on with that military training in Maine knew that the family were probably going to start digging too much, and it was better to scare the crap out of them in order to push them out and away, rather than have to, do anything drastic. Um, how do I put this? The fact that they're trying to scare you away rather than just remove you from the equation, if you know what I mean. I'm trying to say how to put it. They're being polite, and you need to listen. It's obviously not bad enough that they need to just remove you from the situation, but it's important enough, and it's probably more than likely for the purposes of, like if it's commandos or green berets, or like special forces, or they're teaching them to do like commando training and that sort of thing, because of the fact that they saw dens, and it sounds like what they were wearing was like camouflage clothing. I know that, like in the Skinwalker case, and that they wear morphing suits. In the military, I discovered when I was investigating the Skinwalker ranch, they have like morph suits and that, like camouflage, and ones that are almost make you invisible. And there are reports of seeing things without faces, and when you see things without faces, and like Slender Man and that sort of thing, they're trying to keep you away for a reason, and it's more often than not for your own safety, because you don't want to go walking into an undisclosed top secret military training exercise where you've got snipers hiding underground that might think you're the enemy and shoot you, because they do, they do use live rounds and that in special forces training. You don't know what they're doing there, so it's better to just mind your own business, because it's more often than not to do with like training and secret operations and that sort of thing. And like with the Mothman, I personally believe it was because you were dealing with uh, demolition. I think they were working on ways to blow up bridges, because there were bridges that were getting blown up in the area where the Mothman was being seen. And I think it was basically to make sure that the public didn't go anywhere near where they were testing demolition sites and that sort of thing. For whatever reason, they're not letting the public know they're doing that sort of thing. That's fine. You have to respect that when it comes to our military, don't you, really? Because they could just eliminate you, but they don't. They're scaring you away for a reason. They use a lot of, in America as well, they use a lot of Native American mythologies, like your Wendigos and all that sort of thing. They'll use those sort of myths as well. So, because when Native Americans are nervous about a hybrid or cryptoid or something mythological or folklore based, it's something worth being afraid of. And the American government, the American military will feed on your indigenous myths and legends and that, because people will be like, well, the local tribes people say this, and because it gives it more credence. Like with when they want to try and get away with UFO stuff, they always use like military and Air Force and police and people with reputable, but why would they lie? He's a pilot, why would he make that up? That sort of thing. They'll use them as like witnesses for their UFO stuff. So it's more credible. Someone's gonna believe a cop seeing a UFO more than they are gonna see than they are if it came from, like an alcoholic on the street. Somebody who lived on the street isn't going to carry the same weight for eyewitness testimony than like a doctor or a pilot or a police officer. So, hang on, I'm just having a sip. I'll put a link in the description box below of the Mr. Ballen episode that I'm watching, as well as you can see how close Palmyra is to Bangor. So I personally think that they're doing military training out there, because as soon as he described the den and the growling inside and the way that it was made up, the first thing I thought was like my dad, he used to train, he taught us, and we were taught in school how to make bivouacs and that, and my dad used to say that when they used to do stakeouts and that, they would build things very similar to hide them and camouflage them into bushes and that, so that, because when he was teaching us, he was saying, like, say for example, if you have to go into hiding and you need to like build yourself like a bivouac or a den or a fort, but have it be camouflaged where you're not going to be seen, to like build it into the bushes or build it under the leaves. And he was showing us how to do it. And so I think that's that's the first thing I thought when he was describing this den. And I just had this image of them, of the men in like their ghillie suits, and with their ghillie, what are they called? Oh God, I can't remember what they call. My phone's going to kill me. Yeah, but in their ghillie suits that have got like all the netting and stuff hanging off them, and they've got like ferns and twigs and sticks and that stuck in their helmets. That's the first thing I thought. And it's the fact that these things were supposed to be absolutely terrifying, and yet all they did was stand around. It sounds like they were having when it said there were 5 of them standing and one of them stood on its back legs and all of that, like in the Return to Oz, how they had the wheelers. They were moving around like the wheelers, and then stood on their back legs like people and that, which means that these are people that have been trained to be very nimble when they move, like Andy Serkis, as Gollum and all that. Like the way that he was able to move was, it just sounds very similar. It's all I kept thinking in my head when Mr. Ballen was describing it all, was it sounds like military. It sounds like some sort of covert military training. And they were deciding what to do with the family, standing there, all 5 of them looking up at the house, and then thinking, oh, they don't seem like they are too much of a threat, so let's just scare the crap out of them. So, and I think that's what they did. And I think that it's best that people leave it alone. When it comes to things like that, people need to leave it alone. Don't go messing with anything to do with the military when it comes to their training or their surveillance operations or anything like that. Don't mess with it. If they're hiding in forests and things like that, there's a reason for it, and you should probably just not go investigating it. It sounds like if that family, the Martin family, hadn't have gone to investigate anything in that forest, they would have been none the wiser, and they'd probably still be living in that house. So, yeah, that's my personal opinion. And then I will get on to the second story. I'll put links in the description box below so you can see the distance between the 2 places, and look up the place, and I'll put the link to the Mr. Ballen video. It is the 4th story, I believe, because there's 5 stories and this is the 4th story. So it's just my opinion, but let me know what you think. Speak to you later. Ka kite anō.